Hey, it's Marina, Travel Experta. Today, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about traveling to Costa Rica. Are you guys ready for an adventure? Let's begin. Costa Rica is one of the most popular countries to visit in Central America. Interestingly enough, they have two pretty massive international airports. Make sure to go and listen to the different episodes I have about the airports and how to get around and renting a car there as well. So it's one of the biggest hubs, like from Europe, from Canada, from the US. It is a very popular country, mainly because of its nature, all that it has to do with the nature, its eco-friendliness, and the overall friendliness of the Tico people. So there are ways to get around Costa Rica, and I have a really interesting episode about renting a car in Costa Rica. So make sure you go and listen to it because there's quite a few things that you need to know about renting a car in Costa Rica, from the insurance, from gas. There's so many important things. So make sure you go and check that one out. So renting a car in Costa Rica is probably one of the most common ways to get around. Also, another way is definitely through shuttles. They have a great shuttle system. The problem with the shuttle system is they're very limited on times, right? A lot of times you won't even make it if your flight comes in, but if you're going from one area to another area, you could certainly take that, and it's a little bit cheaper. However, if there's three or more people traveling, it's going to end up actually being a little bit cheaper if you get a private transfer. And I highly recommend private transfers because then they stop along the way in all these really cool places. So getting a private transfer is the most likely second most popular way to get around Costa Rica. And then, of course, you could do the public transportation, but that is kind of go at your own time, go at your own risk. It's not that it's dangerous, but it could be very slow. But again, if you have a lot of time, why not? It's a lot cheaper for sure. Costa Rica is not a cheap country. It is pretty expensive because it is so geared towards tourism. And the majority of the hotels that are decent will start to cost between $250 all the way up to $1,000 per night. Anything around $50 to $100 is quite mediocre and definitely not what you would think you would pay in a Central American country. Very low standards. So that is something that you do need to be prepared for when you go to Costa Rica. It's not cheap. However, there are incredible eateries called sodas. Make sure you go and listen to my entire podcast about traditional food of Costa Rica, where to eat. They're called sodas. And those, interestingly enough, for less than $10, you can get a huge homemade, delicious Tico style meal, including drinks and dessert. And they are located all over the country. Now, the main thing about Costa Rica is that it is a multi-destination country, I guess you could say, because of the majority of the eco environments. It has so many different biodiversities that you normally would go and visit at least two, most likely three or four different locations. So, for instance, the most popular thing, if you have, let's say, 7 to 10 days, you would go to the coast, the rainforest, and maybe the cloud forest. So mainly you would do Manuel Antonio, which is southern part of, it's in the middle south of Costa Rica along the ocean. Make sure you go and listen to my episode all about Manuel Antonio, the coastline, their wildlife. It's really interesting because the wildlife there, you can literally have constant daily personal interactions. The next place that you would visit is the rainforest. Definitely those two places are the most popular, and the rainforest is Arenal and La Fortuna area. This is also where the volcano is, and this is where the majority of the best adventure tours you could possibly have. And then you could also add in cloud forest. Monteverde is a really popular one. Also, you make sure to go and listen to my Arena La Fortuna podcast. Talks all about the different activities I have that you could do there and so much more. Monteverde is the cloud forest. It's also a really great place. It's chillier, rainier, or Barra Blanca. also could go and listen to an entire podcast about that, is also the cloud forest, much closer to San Jose, and it's right next to Poas volcano, which is one of the active volcanoes. Really cool place. Again, you could go and listen to the entire podcast about that to get much more detail. And then you also have Guanacaste region, which is some of the more popular beaches like Tamarindo, and you have the Nicoya Peninsula, Playa Grande. So that's a really big area as well to go and visit, and one of the more popular places. It's close to Liberia. Liberia is the second largest city, and it has one of the largest international airports as well. So make sure to go and listen to my episodes about those so you can get really full on details about those areas as well. Some of the most popular activities to do in Costa Rica, the number one activity is the canopy tour, the zip line tour. You can find them pretty much anywhere, but I highly recommend if you're going to be in Arenal or Monteverde, those are the best ones. Please go to the ones that have insurance, that are well known, because everybody in Costa Rica has built a canopy tour. A lot of them are not safe, but some of them are really, really safe, and it's not hard to find out which ones because they're the ones that have the insurance. Skytrek is one of the number one for Monteverde and Arenal. Then there's Canopy Safari, and there's a few others in Manuel Antonio and around the areas, but please make sure to find out if they are insured, how often they maintain it. It's really important. Some of them could be really dangerous, and you just don't want to risk it. Hanging bridges is another really popular, really fun thing to do in Costa Rica. Again, the best ones to do are in Arenal, Monteverde, and Manuel Antonio. Again, make sure you find out which ones are really kept up a lot. Rafting is another very, very popular activity to do there. Canyoneering, which is rappelling off of off of waterfalls. Again, you need to go with a tour group that has insurance, because the fact that they have spent money on being insured really takes them to the next caliber. A lot of them are not insured, but when they are insured, they have to upkeep to certain standards. So please, guys, go to ones, spend that little extra to really do that. On the coastal areas, obviously, you have surfing. Also, sailing is a really big thing. Fishing is really popular. And then you have the entire Osa Peninsula, which is really far south. And I really recommend flying there. It's not the easiest place to get to, but once you're there, everything is compact, so you could pretty much get around easily in that area. There's Drake Bay, there's Puerto Jimenez areas that you could get around. If you go during the dry season, you can definitely drive there. Um, and you'll be able to pass through like Dominical, Ovita, a lot of these really cool little beach areas. Again, I have podcast for each of these locations, so please go and really listen to for more information for each of those locations. There are plenty of Airbnb options, hotels. Costa Rica is really popular for its boutique hotels, but remember, they are not cheap. So if you guys have been there, I would love to hear more of your information, whatever. The money that they use there are colones. Dollars are definitely accepted everywhere, but colones is more, their local currency. Although credit cards are pretty much taken anywhere other than like local restaurants and at the markets. So make sure to have some colones with you at all times. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review, share it with your friends, and remember to make every day an adventure.